Lewis Hamilton has said the United States Grand Prix win was his for the taking, but he and his team failed in cashing in on the opportunity. And in the end, he got disqualified from the Grand Prix after finishing second and showing us all what he's still capable of. He lost out by a mere 2.2 seconds, but many are left wondering, could Hamilton have won the race? And what went wrong during the race? Well, these are the 4 areas where it went wrong during a weekend in which Lewis Hamilton missed winning the United States GP by 2.2 seconds prior to his disqualification. The decision by Mercedes to put Hamilton on a one-stop strategy was arguably the most controversial subject of the day. However, because of the driver's tyre issues, they were forced to pit him and switch to a two-stopper. But by then, Verstappen, who was always on a two-stopper and pitted several laps before Hamilton, had the upper hand. Mercedes needed to do something different with Verstappen because the Dutchman would have won with the same strategy, but there were questions if Mercedes' original one-stopper was overly conservative. Sky Sports' Anthony Davidson commented on the matter. If they hadn't have gone through an alternative strategy today, to go into the mediums at the end of the race to try and offset themselves against the likes of Verstappen, I do believe that Verstappen would have had them covered, he said. If they just went on the same strategy, I think Verstappen had the speed in that car today to win the race. Ultimately, I feel like Mercedes didn't quite understand fully the speed of their car today perhaps. But I still feel like Red Bull could have with Max responded on the same strategy, and I feel like Mercedes had to try to think outside of the box in defense. Maybe it's time with this upgrade now to stop feeling so, in a way, negative and defensive and start to attack a bit more with a strategy as well. However, Toto Wolff, Mercedes team principal, defended his team's strategy at the United States Grand Prix after a close defeat to Red Bull's Max Verstappen. Lewis Hamilton, who was using the medium compound while Verstappen was on the hard, pursued Verstappen in the closing moments of the race at the Circuit of the Americas. Mercedes initially intended a one-stop strategy, keeping Hamilton on the track later than his competitors during the first round of pit stops. But his first pair of medium tyres failed suddenly, forcing Mercedes to pit the 7-time world champion for hard rubber, despite knowing it would put him behind Verstappen and jeopardize the team's perfect strategy. Hamilton made up for lost time by closing up on Verstappen at the end after swapping back to the mediums, but he ran out of laps to mount an attack. Hindsight is a tough thing because you can say we could have covered Max. We had the quicker car at that stage, but we didn't know, Wolff said. So dragging it out to a one-stop was a valid thing at that stage, but then we lost so much time over 2 laps and that's what lost us the race. We were on lap 19 or 20 and we needed to extend until 23 to make the one-stop stick. Max stopped for a clear 2-stop strategy, and we knew we just needed 4 more laps with a one-stop. He was 20 seconds behind us and then a tyre just dropped and we lost the gap. But the failed strategy wasn't everything that messed up Hamilton's race, as Davidson began to further investigate what went wrong for the 7-time world champion. He believes a few minor errors by Hamilton didn't help. When you're so close like that, you have to start looking at little details, said the former F1 driver. One of these moments came for Lewis down at turn 11. This was a pretty costly lockup and error there, and that critical moment of the race. You had drivers there pitting in front of him, trying to do the undercut. Verstappen was the first of that trio out front doing it, so those laps were critical. Davidson adds the lockup was unfortunate in its timing because you're fighting Verstappen and Norris so closely at this point, admitting he was being super critical while Hamilton had a fantastic weekend. I think this must have been at least half a second's worth in just that corner alone, running so wide on the marbles. With his tyres failing, Mercedes was forced to abandon their planned one-stop strategy and switch Hamilton to a two-stopper. However, his initial stop was 3.6 seconds long. On top of that, you had the slower pit stop, added Davidson. It's fair to say that Mercedes haven't been the best or the fastest this year, but this stop was slower than they would have expected. That was another chink in the armour, one other problem. If you'd have rectified both of those, you would have been now maybe a second down the road from where you were at the end of the race. All of this adds up, especially in a race where you don't have a safety car or any virtual safety cars. Davidson also said Hamilton's duel with Charles Leclerc was the biggest blow to the Briton's ambitions, as he was locked behind the Ferrari following his second pit stop. That, according to the Briton, cost his comrades 6 to 7 tenths, if not a second. It was unfortunate timing behind Leclerc. He was on the medium tyres hunting him down. Leclerc is trying to do the one-stop strategy here, he explained. If he'd have just got him in this corner, he would have saved heaps of time. He wasn't quite close enough. He tried to go around the outside of turn 2, but he didn't quite have the momentum and couldn't quite do the switchback as effectively as he would have loved to. He had to follow Leclerc all the way through this high-speed section, losing time hand over fist. Maybe another 6 to 7 tenths lost in that whole sequence, maybe even a second because Leclerc was that slow. Hamilton's efforts were ultimately futile as the Briton was disqualified following the race after his W14 failed a post-race plank and floor check. His car's plank was discovered to be less than the statutory 9mm thickness. But if it wasn't for the mistakes and disqualification, Lewis Hamilton feels he could have caught Max Verstappen's Red Bull had the race been a few laps longer. Thus, Mercedes could smell victory for the first time all season. Hamilton looked back on a Grand Prix that had become mostly a what-if story. We were catching them towards the end though. I was hopeful that I could, but I just need a couple more laps. There has been so much work to bring this upgrade here, and it was difficult after the last race in Qatar. I really felt like I let the team down, so I had to go through such a deep process to get myself back to here. It's one of those experiences of, it's not how you fall, it's how you get back up. I came here in the mood to fight hard. It felt great and I'm really happy with my performance, Hamilton said. Hamilton remained positive after Austin. Overall, we still didn't perform optimally today. We had good pace and I was feeling great in the car. It was tough racing those around me as they were so quick, but we can be happy with many things. I feel positive as we're moving forward, even if reflecting on it we could have possibly won today. It is of course disappointing to be disqualified post-race, but that doesn't take away from the progress we've made this weekend. And all this newfound pace had to do with the Brackley team debuting a new floor during the United States Grand Prix, which was designed with 2024 in mind, but they did hope for slight benefits from the start. That's precisely what they discovered, and Hamilton feels encouraged by his performance at the Circuit of the Americas. I felt great from lap 1 on Friday and had a good recovery week, and I felt solid in the car, he said. And this is the first weekend that I've really felt the upgrades work, so I felt really positive and incredibly grateful. I know how hard everyone's working back to the factory, so it's nice to finally start to see the rewards of the hard work and to feel it in the car as well. I think that is definitely the most positive I've felt this year, but in general, it's been not a terrible year. But yeah, just knowing the work that's happening, I'm in constant contact with Head of Aero and the team back. I just feel like everyone's really on their toes and really ready to go. There's lots of things that we can improve on in terms of the process and all of us, but I'm excited. I definitely believe that we're going in the right direction. It has the Mercedes driver yearning for his first Grand Prix win since his title challenge in 2021. According to Hamilton, the change not only increased track performance, but also increased his confidence in the vehicle, since he can now throw it into the corner. When asked if he thought he might win before the conclusion of the season, he said, "Definitely. I think the step that we were able to take this weekend has given me a little bit more confidence in the car to throw it into the corner, so it was positive. I really enjoyed driving around this track. But there are still those fundamental issues that we're having with the car which won't change till next year. But it was really positive, as I said, to feel that the steps that we've taken, maybe it was only 0.1 upgrade for example, but there was at least 0.1 of confidence that it gave me, so this helped me. So it's quite interesting what you see when you do have those. It's like a double knock-on effect. However, Hamilton's chances of catching Sergio Perez for second in the drivers' standings have been dashed, with the Red Bull driver now leading by 37 points. Will he be able to overcome that gap in the upcoming 4 races? And could Mercedes have handled the race strategy different for Hamilton? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below.